All right, good evening. Thank you very much, dear students, for having joined me. It's a pleasure to be with you one more night. And as I say, it's quite interesting for me to be with you today. That is Wednesday, and it's the middle of the week. I guess that many of you are still with the desire to continue working. So I think that we're going to take advantage of that, and we're going to apply it to the TOEFL exam. All right. So thank you for having joined me. So as I told you yesterday, by the way, thank you for, I know that there are some new students as well who have just joined the courses. By the way, there is in the description of our WhatsApp group, there is a link, right? That if you press on it, it's going to take you to the YouTube channel where all our classes are being uploaded. So that, for example, when you miss a class or for the classes that you have not been present in, you can go to this YouTube channel and simply watch them, right? In order to even yourself with your classmates, and also send to the WhatsApp group the link to the last class that we had for those new students. So of course they can even themselves with the rest, right? But as I say, all the classes are always going to be available there in that YouTube channel. Fantastic. So let me tell you what we're going to be doing tonight. As you remember yesterday, we talked about the speaking section with all its general aspects. And we also talked about the second task, right? That was the first task that we're going to be, that we were discussing, that we will continue discussing tonight and tomorrow as well with the third task. Now, what we're going to do tonight before practicing for the second task of the speaking section is that we're going to discuss a little bit further on the structure that you need to follow when responding this type of questions, all right? So let me open here my presentation and let me show you what I had, what I didn't have the opportunity to show you yesterday. That is the template that I was using for my responses. If you remember yesterday, I made you listen to my responses, right? For the exercises of the second task of the speaking section. And I told you that I was using a template and a structure, that I was following a pattern. And this is the pattern that I was following, and I'm going to share it with you. Now, before we do that, just because there are some new students, let us listen one more time to just one of my responses for them to have an idea of how to respond to these questions. Although that I know that many of them have already watched the classes that the class that I sent to the WhatsApp group. It's very important for you to rewatch it, okay, dear students, for you to permeate yourself with all the aspects of the speaking section in a general manner and also about the specific second task. But anyways, let's just read and listen to my response in this occasion, right? Just in case, and of course, that some of you can remember a little bit before I share with you the template that I was using for that response, right? So let me show you here. I have it. The first passage. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. So here we have the first passage. Okay. So let us read together. All right. So remember that for the second task of the speaking section, you will always be, first of all, reading a passage, and then you're going to listen to a conversation on the same topic that this reading passage was also discussing and commenting about. All right. So let's read the passage together. It says, the university is planning to offer free Spanish courses this trimester due to an influx of exchange students from Spain and Latin America. Starting this trimester, the university will be offering free Spanish language tuition for interested parties. Participation in these courses is limited, however, and preference will be given to those students taking part in activities directly related to the exchange program. Go to the university website for further details. There you are. So as you can see, this is the reading passage, right? Now, after you read this, then you're going to immediately listen to a conversation on the same topic in which two different speakers are going to discuss, as I say, what they think. But there's always going to be just one speaker who will say his opinion or her opinion, and he's going to defend it. He's going to offer some reasons why he believes that way. And the other speaker is, as I told you, a supplementary speaker, a secondary speaker, because the other speaker, you're going to notice, simply remarks the conversation, allows it to continue, but nonetheless, he never mentions, for example, his opinion, or he never adds any important or relevant information to the conversation. So that secondary speaker is not somebody that you should be focusing on, right, or concentrating on. But the main speaker is the one that you should be paying attention to, because this speaker is the one you're going to use in your response in order to summarize the conversation. All right, let us start with the conversation. Let us listen, okay? And please take your notes here.
Now listen to two students discussing the Spanish classes.
What do you think about the Spanish courses the university is offering? I'm not sure. I mean, last semester they did the same thing with an IT course, and it was booked out within 10 minutes of the registration from going online.
You think it'll be the same for this?
Well, yeah, Spanish is a popular language to learn, and look at what it says about the preferences given. There are going to be loads of students who fit the bill for preferential access.
Well, I'm going to give it a look anyway. I might get lucky.
Sure, to be honest, I think it would be better if they didn't make the course free. A lot of people will sign up just because they don't have to pay anything, then not turn up to half of the classes. If you have to pay for something, you're more likely to use it.
I'm not sure. I mean, this way it's accessible even to poorer students.
I guess so. I suppose I'm still annoyed that I couldn't do the IT course last semester. I really needed the chance to brush up on my computing skills.
Okay, there you are. So after you listen to this, as I told you yesterday, you will have 30 seconds in order to prepare a response. And your response is basically a summary of both materials, a summary of the reading passage, and a summary of the conversation you have just listened to. Now remember, very important that in your response, you don't have to mention nor to include your own opinion about the topic. You don't have to say, for example, if you agree with this new policy of the university offering these free Spanish courses to all students, or you don't have to say, for example, if the reasons that the main speaker offer seem to you to be appealing or compelling. Never mention anything external. Just summarize the materials just as they have been presented to you with your own words, okay? So let us listen to my response, how I responded, and then I'm going to show you my template, that is to say, the structure that I was following when responding, because I always follow a pattern, and I want you to repeat that because, as I say, it's always better to have something already prepared when responding, and that way you're not going to have any trouble to come up with the words and the phrases you have to say, all right? So let's start and listen to how I responded to this particular exercise. Remember that you have 1 minute in order to offer the summary of this reading passage and also the summary of this conversation. Let us listen. In the reading passage, we observe that the university wants to offer free Spanish courses since next trimester to all students, but especially to those who are engaged with exchange programs. On the other hand, we also observe a student who disagrees with this modality because she considers that just as it happened with the IT classes, so many people, just because the courses are free, are going to register and many students are going to stay out of the lessons. She also considers that given that Spanish is a very popular language, many students will also be super interested in learning this language and many people will simply stay out of the lessons. She also considers that the university should make these courses not free but pay, and that way just the students who are really interested in these courses will take part of them, and not just the students who, because the courses are free, get into. Okay, as you can see, my response in 1 minute. I just summarized both materials and I didn't offer nor stated my opinion about what the university is planning to do, nor about the arguments and opinion presented by the main speaker in the conversation. Now, let me show you the template that I was following, and I please want you to take notes on this, copy it, right, I don't know, on a sheet of paper. Maybe you would like to take some screenshot or take a picture, because this is very important. You're going to be using this same structure when practicing in a few seconds, all right? So let's read together. As you can see, the template or the structure that I use has 4 different steps. The first step is this one. You have to always include this introductory phrase at the beginning of your response. As you can see, my introductory phrase, the way I always start with my responses is, to begin with, in the reading passage, and that is a phrase that I always repeat and that you should always repeat as well while you're practicing and on the actual exam as well. So to begin with, in the reading passage, then you continue, right? So to begin with, in the reading passage, and after you mention that phrase, you have to express and to summarize whatever the passage, of course, the reading passage said, right? So this first step, as I say, it's for you to introduce your response and for you to summarize very, very concisely and very, very clearly, as you saw, your reading passage, okay? That is the first step, to begin with in the reading passage, and then you make a very brief and concise summary of the reading passage, all right? After you finish your summary, you say, on the other hand, that if you notice was a phrase that I always repeated in my responses. On the other hand is a connector, right? For you to contrast or to compare what the reading passage said in comparison to what the conversation said, right? So on the other hand, this is a connector that you should always as well repeat. And of course, maybe you don't like it. You can, for example, of course, change the wording. You could use another template, but excuse me, another connector, but the template should remain, okay? So you should keep up with the idea of this template, because the organization that I am recommending you, I think is the very much the one that is recommended and also efficient for this task, all right? So on the other hand, after you finish your summary of the reading passage, you say, on the other hand, and here comes a very brief summary of the conversation, right? It could be something like, on the other hand, we have a student that disagrees with this particular policy, and then you continue, right, with the third and the fourth step. And as you can see, the third and the fourth step are basically the following. The third step is the first main speaker's reason, because if you notice, and as I told you, dear students, the speaker that gives his or her opinion, that is the main speaker, always offers some reasons, some arguments why he believes the way he believes, or that is to say, why he thinks the way he thinks, right? That is to say, he defends his position. So in the third and the fourth step, you just simply summarize those particular reasons or motives. And of course, as I say, to summarize as well, if he offers an illustration, then summarize it. And the fourth step is exactly the same. The second main speaker's reason, and you also have to here summarize it very clearly and very concisely. And that is what you have to do. As you can see, this is the organization and the template you should be following in your responses we've practiced right now. Okay. Is there any question, dear students, with regard to the structure, to the template? Is this understandable? Maybe I can clarify something. Please tell me. I'm going to be delighted to help you. Is this understandable? What you have to do? How can you respond to the question? Any particular concern here? Please tell me.
Sorry, can you repeat the last part, the point 4, please?
Yes, of course, my pleasure. Why not? So as I said, when you finalize with the summary of the reading passage, and the second step you say, on the other hand, right? And that is basically a connector for you to summarize what the conversation says. For example, you say something like, on the other hand, we have listened to a student who disagrees with this new policy the university is planning to offer, and he believes this way because of these reasons, right? And then you're going to, in the third and in the fourth step, you're going to summarize those reasons. Because if you notice, for example, in this particular illustration we listened to, the students in this conversation disagree with the idea of the university offering free Spanish courses, right? And she gave 2 reasons. First of all, she said, some people simply get into these courses because they are free, but they nevertheless never appear on the actual classes. So people who really are interested actually do not get into, because they are, as I say, having so much, let's say, so much a difficulty to apply and to receive the scholarship or the free tuition, because many people apply, but they never get into the classes. So that is the first reason she gives for disagreeing with this. And the second one is because she says that when you pay, when you do something because you are paying, it's because you are really interested in doing so. So the university shouldn't be offering this free, because by doing so, they're simply allowing people who are not really interested in the Spanish courses to enter without having any real interest, right? So those reasons, as you can see, after I mentioned the super brief summary of the conversation, I used the entire response that I had, or that is to say, the rest of my time in my response, to mention those arguments. I simply summarized what she said. In the order she said it, the third and the fourth step are simply that, are summaries of the first reason the main speaker gives for holding his opinion, and the second reason he gives for holding his opinion. And he has, for example, more reasons, of course, mention them. Thirdly, she said this. Fourthly, she said this, etc., etc. But normally, they always offer 2 reasons. All right. Is better now, dear Sarah?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Any other question, dear students? Jasmine, Andre, Santiago, Alexander, Angel, Mateo, Kevin, Andrea, any question, anything that you could clarify here with regard to the template?
Yeah, I have one. I don't know if this is the correct time to ask, but I think I struggle with listening and writing something down, taking notes. I think, I don't know, I try to take notes of the keywords that the person is saying, but there are, I don't know if there are an easy way or something that could, like, I could do to improve in that. But for me, it's better just to listen the whole clip and then to listen again and take notes. In that way, I could do better. But with
Yes.
listening and taking notes, what would you recommend to do it in a efficient way?
All right. Thank you very much for your question, Yasmin. I think it's a very good question, actually, because yes, sometimes some students struggle with that, certainly because the speaker always mentions and let's say develops her response very quickly, right? Because they are native speakers, right? So they don't care about the fact that some people, of course, are not able to follow the same velocity they're applying to their speaking. Nonetheless, there is going to be a moment in these classes when we arrive specifically to the listening parts, to the listening section, in which I'm going to give you some specific techniques and tips for you to improve your notes, all right? For you to, let's say, as you said, for example, take more efficient notes. Nonetheless, for now, given that we're just starting, for example, with the speaking section, and actually here the conversations and the lectures that we're going to listen later are not too long because, for example, in the listening section, the conversations and the lectures last for approximately 5 or 6 minutes. So as you can see, for example, in this case, the lecture or the conversation this time actually lasts just for 1 minute. So it's actually something very much reduced. But in the listening section, you are going to be forced to yes listen and to pay attention to your notes as well. So as I say, when we come to that particular moment, I'm going to give you some tips and recommendations. But anyways, the better or the best manner to improve in this is just by practicing and trying to, of course, maybe something that I could say right now is don't try to copy, let's say, the same words that you listen to. As I say, you are not listening to this lecture or to this conversation in order to write notes. You are actually taking notes in order to remember the conversation, right? So as I say, as you do, for example, pay more attention to what the speakers say. Nonetheless, when you listen to something that, let's say, they're discussing, in this case, the IT courses and how this exemplifies how people get into these courses without really caring about what they are learning, you should actually write down a note that saying, she disagrees because people don't pay attention. That's it. That should be your note, for example. Not something like trying to write down exactly what you listen to, because of course that takes time. Nonetheless, as I say, try to, for now, write down the best possible notes you can. And in the future, when we come to that listening part, I'm going to give you a lot of tips and recommendations for you to improve in that area. Okay, but for now, it's necessary, or it's not necessary to give you that, because as I say, the conversations are super short, 1 minute. So try to use your notes with the technique you're using right now. All right. Okay, fantastic.
I have a
is there
very quick question.
Yes, please, Andre, continue.
First of all, thank you for the structure. I found it very useful. You say that usually the audio had 2 main ideas. That's why
Yes.
this structure is focused on these 2 ideas. But if we imagine maybe a situation where we have more than 2 ideas, do you recommend to still stick to this structure, to try to focus on these 2 first main speakers, well, the first and the second main speaker reason, or it will be better that if we found out that there are more than 2 ideas, to try to amplify that that structure and try to tell, well, more ideas instead of focusing on the main of the 2 main of them.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much for your question, Andre. Yes, certainly. It's a very good question. Yes. As you say, the reason why the template follows this particular pattern is because, as you notice, normally in the conversations and lectures that you're going to listen later, the speaker merely mentions two ideas, right? And I think that this is common and it's natural because, of course, they don't want to trouble students with a lot of things to include in their responses. Nonetheless, yes, in the hypothetical case that you receive more reasons, because it happens sometimes that the speaker actually mentions a lot of brief reasons, and normally because they just give two reasons, but they explain them, right? They, let's say, explain their reasons further. They make deep commentaries about those particular reasons. Nonetheless, sometimes the speakers prefer to give super brief and concise reasons, but they give a lot of them. So in that case, as I say, it would be recommendable, of course, yes, to mention all those reasons instead of focusing on just two of them, right? So of course, this passage or this structure, excuse me, is designed for you to cover the normal version of the conversations in which, as I say, the speakers normally mention two different ideas that are well explained and well sustained. Nonetheless, sometimes there is the possibility that the speaker is going to mention a lot of reasons super briefly and concisely. And if that is the case, also, you should mention them super briefly and concisely, making sure that none of them gets out of your response. All right, you should amplify the template.
Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. Any other question? Any other thing, dear students? Any thing that you could clarify here with regard to the template?
Yes, I have a question.
Andrea, please.
Well, maybe I am wrong, but I think the conversation was in British English. If this is so, the audio we will listen in the exam will be that way in British English, I mean.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, I mean, in this case, the speakers were British. Certainly, they had this accent, very particular of these people. Nonetheless, no, I mean, in the TOEFL exam, they vary. They give you sometimes lectures by British professors and sometimes American professors. So you're going to receive a very varied spectrum of accents. Actually, sometimes I remember that in one opportunity, I listened to an Australian accent, that if you have listened to that one, it's actually way different, right, to the American and to the British one. So as I said, you have to be prepared for any type of accent. But normally, I would say, I don't know, 60% of the time or 70% of the time, the accent of the speakers is American. So, but yeah, certainly you're going to listen to British accent, although it is more reduced, and also maybe to an Australian accent. As I say, it's plausible, right? So yes, you have to be prepared for all the type of accents you can imagine. All right, of course, not the ones that are super uncommon, as I don't know, Indian accents. Come on, God forbids it, because the Indian accent, how they speak English is terrible in my opinion. So, or the Chinese one, right? But nonetheless, American or British or Australian, as I said, or Canadian, actually, it's possible to find it. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, my pleasure. Thank you very much, Andrea. There you are. Okay, any other questions, dear students, about the template, about the structure here? We can move on to the practice. Okay, and then we can move on to the practice. Now, before we get into the practice, super quickly, I have some brief recommendations for you. So recommendations for the second task before we practice. For this section, you must be very general and concise while summarizing both materials you will receive, dear students, because of course you have just 1 minute in order to include your both summaries. Now, nonetheless, if you're going to emphasize, right, in one item, let it be in the listening item. That is to say, spend more time summarizing the conversation you just listened to. This is very important because, of course, in your response, you have to decide how much time you're going to invest on every particular item or element in a response. So my recommendation is that if you're going to emphasize on one part, emphasize on the conversation and spend more time discussing the conversation. Why? First of all, because it is more difficult to mention details and to offer a good summary of the listening part, because as one of your classmates expressed, you have the opportunity to listen to this conversation just once. So of course, the reviewer, the person who's going to listen to your response and is going to evaluate you, is very much aware of that. So they value when students actually spend more time on the conversation and they offer a very good summary of both materials. And secondly, because if you notice, it is the conversation that gives you more things to discuss, right? The reading part, it is not very much detail. And you should actually, as I say, prefer to give a super concise and general summary of the reading passage and to explain further and with more details on the conversation, okay? So as I say, If you're going to invest more time on a particular part, invest more time on the conversation, summarize it better, give yourself more time in order to express the opinion of the speaker, to offer the illustrations he gives, the details he mentions. Mention everything he says, all right? But as I say, avoid giving your opinion. In this case, you don't have to say anything about what you think, but you simply have to summarize what they say, right? And second recommendation, it's not necessary to specifically state what person in the conversation said any specific thing. Avoid expressions, for example, the woman said this and the man responded this, or he added this and she later said this. As I told you in the conversation, you have two different speakers. You have the main speaker, who is the person who offers his or her opinion and gives some reasons for holding that opinion. And the secondary speaker or the supplementary speaker is the person who merely, as I say, initiates the conversation and sustains it. If you notice, for example, in this last illustration, the main speaker was the female student and the secondary speaker was the male speaker. And the male speaker basically said things like, oh yeah, I'm sure, yeah, you're right. Oh, I'm gonna give it a glance, right? With that accent. Like, he simply made some commentaries, but he never said anything relevant to the conversation, right? He never added anything important. He was simply somebody, as I say, initiating the conversation and sustaining it. Nonetheless, the main speaker mentioned all the relevant information. She talked about her opinion. She gave examples. She gave reasons. She talked about her experience, about the IT courses. She mentioned a lot of things. So your response to your student, avoid, for example, making this mention of the interchange of dialogue that exists between these two speakers. Don't say, for example, something like, the woman said this, and then the man responded this, and then the woman said this, and then he replied this. That interchange of dialogue is not something that you should mention. Actually, listen to what I say. You should ignore the secondary speaker. Don't even mention him, because as I say, it's unnecessary. He's simply irrelevant, okay? Don't mention the secondary speaker. Imagine that he doesn't exist. As I say, the only function that this secondary speaker fulfills is to initiate the conversation and to sustain it, but no more than that. Focus your response when you are summarizing the conversation on the main speaker. Express what she says, what he says, what is his opinion, what is her opinion, what arguments they are offering for holding the opinion they have. Focus on the main speaker. The secondary speaker, or the let's say the auxiliary speaker, as I say, is not something they should be caring about. Ignore him, okay? Don't mention him in the conversation, all right? Very important. And third recommendation, it's going to be advantageous to your students if you prepare your response sheet in the interlude between, okay, here basically I tell you, look at this picture. Here you have a blank sheet of paper, right? And this blank sheet of paper is basically, as you can see, having some things written on. As you can see, what I wrote on this blank sheet of paper is the template that we have here, right, to begin with in the reading passage. So what my recommendation is that when you start, or when you are about to respond, of course, not responding, but before you respond, let's say in the extra time you have before responding, the first thing you should do is to write down on your paper the structure that I am offering you, right? Write it down. For example, here I have the first phrase or the first step of my structure written on the top of my paper. It says, to begin with, in the reading passage, and as you can see, I leave for myself some blank space before I continue with the second step. On the other hand, and why am I leaving that blank space? Because if you prepare this before you're responding, in the 30 seconds you have for you to prepare your response, the only thing you're going to do is to fill those blank spaces with the information you're going to include in your response. So as I say, this is a very good exercise. And whenever you have the opportunity to write down on your sheet of paper, maybe while you're listening to the conversation or at any point, write down on your paper, as I say, the structure, leaving for you some blank space so that later when you have the 30 seconds of preparation, here the only thing that you're going to do is to complement your sheet of paper, right? As you can see, I think it's a very good idea or technique to apply in your responses. And last thing I say before we start with the practice, while responding to your students, it may be useful to set your eyes on the paper or the papers where you have outlined all the points you're going to mention from the material. So let me give an example. Let's say this is your sheet of paper, right? This notebook here. So when you are responding, because as I say, as if you have not been here in the last classes, I talked about this. When you respond, there is a voice in your headphones that says, now you're going to start with your response. Start after the beep. And there's a sound like beep. and then your minute starts, right, to go down, and that is the time where you respond, and your microphone is going to record your response. So when you respond, it's very important for you to set your eyes on your paper, right, to have it like this when you're responding. Why? Because if you're going to take the IBT version, or actually the home IBT version as well, in our surroundings, there is always a distraction, right? So if you set your eyes on your paper like this, right, like looking at it directly, you're going to be able to concentrate yourself just in your response. And actually, you're going to be able to read, if you want, the structure that you have outlined for you. But if you, for example, respond with your paper here and you respond looking, I don't know, to your front, maybe there's going to be somebody crossing the corridor, because remember that in the IBT version, the people from ETS goes helping people very much. So that could distract you. And also, if you are in your own, if you're at home, for example, you're going to have the problem as well. That, for example, if you, I don't know, if you make like this, right, and you look at the well, I don't know, if you look at the front you have, or if you, I don't know, look at any point, there's going to be something to distract you. So as I say, set your eyes on the paper, all right? And that is going to help you to avoid any type of distraction. All right, that is all. Now let us practice, because I know that through practice, you're going to understand this way better. So this is your turn, okay? I'm going to give you right now a reading passage for you to read. And remember, how much time you have for reading this first information source? 45 seconds, okay? So let us start. I'm going to paste right now to the chat box this reading passage. I'm going to paste it to the chat box for you to read it there, okay? So please center your attention to the chat box. And you can actually take this into, transport it to a Word document if you want to increase the size of the letters, maybe you can do it. You're not going to read it here from my screen, because as you can see, I have to scroll down, and that is going to be uncomfortable, right? So as I say, please look at the chat box. I have already pasted this passage. And as I have mentioned, you're going to have 45 seconds to read it, dear students, okay? So please, all of you, start reading this passage now. There you are. Okay. So what else? Fantastic. So now let us listen to the conversation of two students discussing the same topic you have read about. That is to say, this change in the bus service of a university. Okay. So let us listen to the conversation, and here, please take your notes. All right. Grab your piece of paper, grab your pencil, and take notes while you listen. Let's go.
Now listen to two students discussing the announcement.
So did you hear that the university is cutting its transportation budget and ending all bus service?
I did hear that, but it's no big deal, right? I mean, the university is also compensating all students with $50 vouchers for public transportation. The vouchers can be used on, like, the subway and public buses. So it sounds like there won't be a big problem.
Are you kidding me? This is going to be horribly inconvenient. I mean, like, first of all, there's no public transportation to the DeWolf Science Center. It's far away from any subway and bus station, and getting there will require a 20-minute walk through some of the worst neighborhoods in the city.
I guess that will be a problem for some people, but try to look at it this way. There's too much division in this country between university students and the people who live in the cities around them. Won't this encourage a spirit of togetherness, like when we're all using the same public transportation?
But actually, I think that this policy, that it won't help create much new interaction between students and city dwellers at all.
Why not?
Well, because $50 is not very much money. I mean, it'll probably only cover about a month's worth of subway or bus passes. And, most students won't be able to afford to take public transportation, so So with students forced to walk everywhere, I just don't understand where all of this great new interaction is going to be happening.
The female student expresses her opinion about why she disagrees with the university's new policy. State her opinion and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
Fantastic. So if you notice, actually, the instructions tell you, right? The female student expresses her opinion about the subject. In this case, of course, she is the main speaker, right? So as you can say, or as you can see, excuse me, the same instructions of the exam recommend you and tell you actually to summarize merely the opinion of these female students and to ignore what the male student said, because he was, as I told you, merely the supplementary speaker, right? So let us start then with our responses. As you know, you have 30 seconds to prepare them, okay? So please, dear students, start preparing your responses now. Okay, there you are. Fantastic. So let me tell you how are we going to practice, okay? This is it. One by one, now you're going to be able to respond to this question, okay? And you're going to respond publicly so that everybody can listen to you, all right? So I'm going to choose right now, well, depending on the order that I see here on my screen, who's going to start with this. And as I say, you have to be responding to this question, well, publicly, and you're going to turn on your microphone and you're going to respond one by one. At the end, everybody's going to respond, okay? So you're going to have 1 minute, as you know. And well, who's going to be the first one? Okay, so Sarah, you're going to be the first one, okay? To respond. So please, this is the chronometer. As you can see here, it has a green bar. And this green bar always starts to get empty. So when the bar is completely empty, then you know that your time is over, all right? Here you have 1 minute to respond, okay?
I have an issue.
Yes, tell me.
My internet, it was really bad at the moment I was listening to the, audio.
Yes.
And I can't hear everything.
Okay. Okay, I'm so sorry. Well, okay, I guess you're going to respond at the end then, all right? You're going to listen to what your classmates say and try to gather some information from there, all right? Okay, so Jasmine, you're going to then be the first one, all right? So please, and then with your microphone, and using the structure and everything that we have discussed, start responding to the question now.
To begin with, in the reading passage, is telling about the university will no longer provide complimentary transportation by bus, and instead will give $50 to use public transportation. On the other hand, we had listened to a woman student that disagrees because it would be an inconvenience because there is no much public transportation and they are located far away. On top of that, she also considered that this won't add new interaction because it's not much money and there are some students that will be forced to walk. And okay, I have finished.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear Jasmine. Very good. There you are. Okay, let's continue with Andre. Please, dear Andre, you're going to be the next one. So please start responding, right, to the question now.
Okay, to begin with, in the reading passage, we are told that the university decided that there will no longer be available the complementary bus for students. Regarding this, there will be a compensation of $50 for public transportation given per semester to each student. So on the other hand, we have that the girl thinks this is a big deal, specifically because there is no public transportation to some specific centers of the university. Secondly, the girl also thinks that there will not be no much interaction of the students with that community because $50 is not too much money. Students will be forced to walk instead.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Surendra.
Thank you.
Wonderful. There you are. Let's continue with Andrea. Please, Andrea Gonzalez, you're going to follow up. All right, so please enable your microphone and start responding to the question now.
Okay, to begin with, in the reading passage, there's an announcement from the university saying that the bus service will be cut and they will be giving $50 for public transportation for all the students, and it will be renewable each semester. On the other hand, we have two students who are discussing this problem. One of them disagree with this announcement, saying that it's inconvenient to people who live far from the university and from the city. And she said that $50 is few, and despite that it will be helpful in a way to be able to join the community, it will not be, I don't know, helpful.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrea. All right, there you are. Fantastic. So let's continue. Santiago, please, Santiago, you're going to continue with the exercise. So please start then responding to the question now.
To begin with, in the reading passage, university established that the institution will not be able to finance the complementary transportation for the students. On the other hand, students are concerned by that. So they established with us that there will be a great inconvenience for the facilities for their complementary study. In the first idea that we had is that all using the same will have to use the same public transportation, and they live far away from that. And that will be a great inconvenience because they don't have all the resources to use that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Santiago. Okay, let's continue with Angel. Okay, please, Angel, you're going to continue, right? So please start delivering your response.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Let's start. All right, start,
okay,
please.
Okay.
Now.
To begin, in the reading passage, announcement for universities says that university will not offer the complementary transportation. From now, students will be to have to cancel a passage. This passage will serve to get a subway and buses. On the other hand, in the conversation, a woman said there is two problems. The first problem is there is not a public transportation from the downtown to the campus university, and some students will be to have to 20 minutes to walking. The second problem is this policy will not create interaction between community and university, because some people will have to not afford to cancel the price of the passes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Angel. Very good. All right, let's continue with with Sarah. I think that you're able to respond now, right? Let's go with you. All right.
Yes.
Let's start responding the question now.
According to the announcement, the reading passage mentions their universities cutting transportation by bus, but there is going to be a compensation of $50 for subways and public buses. On the other hand, two students are discussing this issue. The girl is not completely agree with this because the compensation is not good enough, and sometimes you need to have a walk of 20 minutes because the transport it's not really close to the university. That's
All right.
all.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Very good. There you are. Mateo, please, we're going to continue, all right? So please, dear Mateo, start responding to the question now.
Okay. The reading passage says that the university is not available to give their transportation service. So they're gonna give a gift card of $50, but there's a problem. There are some students that they are not agree with that idea because it's gonna be complicated for some students and they're gonna have to walk. And that's all.
All right. Thank you very much, Mateo. Very good. All right. Very good. Let's continue with Alexander. Please, Alexander, you're going to continue. So please start responding to the question, Alexander, now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, certainly.
Yeah.
Let's start again.
Yeah,
So please start responding to the question now.
So the language in the reading passage tells us that the university informed that will not be able to offer a complementary bus service. So they are gonna give to the students a $50 pass for public transportation. On the other hand, tell us that the campus of the university is far away from the downtown. So the $50 will be able to pay 1 month of each semester of the public transportation. Also creating inconvenience because it's supposed that it's gonna be more, the students are gonna be interact more with the community, but with the hard works that they have to take, this will not be possible.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Alexander. And now let us finalize this round of responses with Kevin, all right? Excuse me, Kevin, you're going to finalize. So please, hear Kevin, enable your microphone and start responding to the question now.
Okay, at the beginning in the reading passage, we have that the university decided to cut the bus transportation, and they decided to give the students to complementary support for that transportation. That support is around $50. In the other hand, there are two students discussing about the problem. Well, in the first part, we can listen that there is a problem. Well, there aren't so many buses, public transportation, and in the other hand, we can listen that $50 is not so much money for that sport.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right, so I think that nobody has been left without responding, right? I think everybody has responded. Fantastic. So, well, I have to say generally, for giving some general feedback, that I'm very surprised actually how well you have performed this task. Okay, so congratulations for all of you. You have done an incredible job actually, right? So let's say some particular commentaries for all of you. So for Jasmine, fantastic, it was a very good response. I don't have any particular observation. Very good introduction, for example, how much you are measuring your times very well. You are deciding, investing time on the conversation. That is a very appropriate decision. And you're, of course, having a more concise and limited time to discuss the reading part, which is excellent, as I told you. Very good. The same for Andre. Perfect response. Yes, tell me.
Sorry, I have something. I know that there were some time left, and I was like, I don't know what more to say because the two reasons I already said it. So what would you recommend in that case? Just keep it quiet, or?
That's a very good question, actually. I was hoping somebody would make it. So in this case, you know, there are some alternatives, let's say. Some people, when they have remaining time in their chronometers, they like to make something like a conclusion. That is to say, they like to make a summary saying, well, I have talked about this and this and this and this and this. But now, ask me if that is a good idea. I don't think so. Why? Well, because what is a conclusion? Let us think about it. A conclusion is basically a summary, right? Whenever we're making a conclusion about something, we're just summarizing something. But isn't it the case that this response is exactly that? It's a summary, right? So if you make a conclusion in this response, you're making the summary of the summary, right? So it is not actually a good idea, I think, to include a conclusion. Whenever you have finalized with everything you had to say, with everything you had planned to say, and you have mentioned everything that you consider was important and relevant in the conversation and the reading, stay silent. That is my recommendation. They are not going to punish you nor harm your score because you're not using, let's say, 10 or 8 seconds of your response. Of course, maybe it is something weird to leave like 20 seconds without saying anything, right? In that case, I would recommend you to include more, to listen to the details of the conversation and to include more. But if you're, I don't know, if you are dispensing with 10 seconds, 8 seconds, my recommendation would be to stay silent, all right? But of course, if you are, I don't know, dispensing with 20 seconds, 30 seconds, of course, there's a little bit, let's say, unorthodox, the best word that I find. But as I say, if it is 10 seconds, 8 seconds, 12 seconds, it's fine. Just stay silent, all right? And let your time to continue until the end, all right? Because, well, there's nothing else you could mention. If you continue with a conclusion, as I say, you are not adding anything positive to your response, but you're actually risking yourself to the fact that maybe in your conclusion you commit a grammar mistake or, I don't know, a pronunciation mistake, and I think it's not worth the risk, all right?
Okay, thank you, Carlos.
My pleasure. There you are. So as I was mentioning, for Andre, perfect response here, Andre. I don't have any observation. Fantastic, okay? Very good investment on the different parts as well of the conversation. Fantastic. Andrea as well, very good. I think at the end of your response, you forgot a word. I didn't understand that very well, but this is a general recommendation for all of you. Whenever you forget a word in a TOEFL exam, or when you're responding here specifically in the speaking section, never mention it. That is to say, never say, oh, how was this mentioned? Or how should I say this? Never express your hesitation or your doubt. Why? Because if you make a great deal of your hesitations or your mistakes, if you, for example, you also commit a mistake at some point in your pronunciation and you realize it, no, don't express it. Don't say, oh, no, I committed a mistake, so sorry. I mean, it is not necessary nor appropriate to say it. If you commit a mistake or simply say, oh, I'm sorry, it was this. Or also, if you forget a word, don't say that you're forgetting a word. Simply treat it as if you were, I don't know, thinking about what you're going to say. And also, as I said, dear students, my recommendation is when you forget a word, simply try to look for an alternative simple sentence in order to replace that word, because trying to look for the word specifically is going to cost you a lot of time, and it's also not going to allow you to find out the word. 90% of the time, we are not able to find the word at that same time, right? And here we have just 1 minute to respond. So as I say, whenever you have the problem of not finding out the word on your mind, my recommendation is look for an alternative simple sentence, the simplest sentence you can think of, and express that same idea that you wanted to say with a word, with a simple sentence. For example, when you want to say, I don't know, when you forget how to say, I don't know, robberies, right? You can say when people rob something, right? That's it. Or whenever you forget a word, I don't know, unorthodox, you say something that is not very common, something like that. As you can see, when you're forgetting a word, by replacing it with a very simple sentence, you are helping yourself, because if you're going to look for the word, well, you're going to be there for seconds, and that is going to cost you very much in the future. All right. Very good. Anyways, dear Andrea, fantastic response with regard to the rest. Very good structure and very good investment on the time as well. Santiago as well, fantastic, very good. Very good response. And I think that it was very much adequate, okay, with regard to a template, fantastic as well. Angel, nothing to say as well, fantastic response. Sarah, good introduction as well, incredible. Mateo, in this case, Mateo, I would recommend you, I noticed that in your response, you didn't use something like 20 or 25 seconds. In that case, I would recommend you to listen a little bit more to the conversation, or maybe to catch some more details of the reading passage and to include them, because as I say, it is fine when you leave, for example, 10, 8 seconds, but 25, maybe the reviewer is not going to find it to be adequate. try to include more information because there are a lot of things that have been mentioned. So it's going to be incredible for you to mention it, okay? And I see that you have a great capacity to speak this language, so use it, all right? It's going to be fantastic if you include a little bit more of information and you, of course, make use of your time, all right? But anyways, incredible response, the rest. Alexander and Kevin as well, fantastic responses. I don't have any particular observation with the template. And I think that your pronunciation and your grammar overall is fantastic, guys, okay? So I don't have any particular observation there. We're gonna practice one more, if you agree. I don't want to leave you with just one practice. It will be too, I don't know, in my opinion, not fulfilling. So let us go with one more, right? Before we finalize with the course. Let us start with a second practice, okay? For you to come back home. Well, you're at home anyways, but I mean, for you to go and have some rest, having practiced in a considerable manner for this part, all right? So let me paste it one more time here. This is a different topic. And please, dear students, all of you start reading it now. All right, there you are. So now let us listen to the conversation on the same topic, right? Let's go. Take your notes, don't forget.
Now listen to two students discussing the announcement.
I think it's totally unfair that the Buonocore Scholarship is only being offered to students in the Romance Languages department. Like, it's an amazing opportunity, and it's so sad to see it monopolized in this way.
Is it really such a bad thing to limit the scholarship to one department, though? I mean, the fewer students compete for the prize, the easier it'll be for students like us to win it. After all, there are only 7 other students in the whole Romance Languages department besides us.
That doesn't change the fact that it's wrong for the scholarship to be limited to our single department. It's a matter of principle. First of all, there are students in other departments, like history and classics and Renaissance studies, all of whom would definitely benefit from a year in Italy. Why shouldn't they get a chance to submit their work to the committee?
But if they also submitted their essays, it would be harder for us to get the prize.
Look, just because something benefits me personally doesn't make me think that it's right. I mean, I have a lot of friends in history and classics and Renaissance studies, and I totally agree with them that it's wrong for them to be ineligible to compete for the scholarship. After all, Romance Languages is a very small department, and it seems abusive for us to keep this resource all to ourselves.
I guess I see where you're coming from.
Also, I think that it takes something away from the honor of winning the scholarship if the competition isn't very strong. I'd rather know that I earned the opportunity to study in Rome by competing against the very best students, instead of thinking that I was only honored because other talented people were unnecessarily excluded from the process.
There you are. Quite interesting opinion, right? The one that she has. Well, now let us start with our preparation. As you know, you have 30 seconds in order to design and develop a response for this task. So please, dear students, start preparing your responses now. There you are. Okay, let us start with the responses then. This time, the person who's going to start will be Andre. Okay, dear Andre. So please enable your microphone and start responding to the question now.
Okay, to begin with, in the reading passage, we found out that the university is offering a scholarship, specifically a Dapunuruk scholarship, to study 2 semesters in Rome. For winning this scholarship, you should submit an essay and explain how a year in Rome will also help to improve this essay. So on the other side, we hear some comments that it's unfair to only students in a specific department, specifically the Romance language department, are able to participate on this scholarship. She mentioned that other students should have the opportunity as well, because just because something helps her does not need to be fair. It will be better to have some competition to win this scholarship.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you very much, dear Andre.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, let us continue. Jasmine, please, you're going to follow up, okay, with a response. So please enable your microphone and start responding to the question now.
To begin with, according to the reading passage, the university is offering an opportunity to win a scholarship in the Romance language. On the other hand, we have listened to a student that disagrees because for her it's unfair and it's being monopolized because there are other students in other areas that could compete to win that scholarship. She also considered that there are other students that could be benefit to study a scholarship in Italy with other departments, and the Romance language, it's a small department according to her.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your response, dear Jasmine. And let's continue with Mateo. Please, dear Mateo, you're going to follow up. Okay, so please start responding to the question now.
Okay, to beginning, there's an announcement to the university is offering a scholarship to studying in Rome, Italy. But there's a problem. It's only for the department of Romance. So there are a lot of students that they feel excluded, and they think that it could be better to give this opportunity to the other departments. And maybe it could be better to do a competition for this scholarship. It's okay.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Mateo. There you are. All right. Very good. Let's continue with Alexander. Please, dear Alexander, you're going to follow up, right? So please start responding, dear Alexander, now.
To begin with, the university is offering an opportunity to study 2 semesters in Italy, specifically in Rome. So, on the other hand, the condition that was only for Romance language students. So that last condition, it's not from the agreement of some students, because they think that there are students from art or history, other areas that can apply, and also could be a more competitive scholarship. So they think that it's better if it's more competitive.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Alexander. There you are. Please, dear Kevin, you're going to continue. So please start responding to the question now.
At the beginning, in the passage, we have that universities offering scholarships for studying in Italy, 2 semesters in Italy. But that the scholarship is only for Romance language department. And in the other hand, we have the 2 students that is discussing about that. She said that there are other departments in the university, and the students from the other departments should have the opportunity to win that scholarship. And he said that it's true because the Romance language department is a small department.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Kevin. Dear Angel, you're going to continue, right? So please start responding to the question now.
To begin, in the reading passage, is mentioned that the university is offering two semesters for studying in Rome. For the competition, students must submit a essay mentioning why they would like to study in Italy. On the other hand, in the conversation, a woman mentioned that it's unfair that only the Roman language department will be taking account in the competition. Also, she mentioned that she knows about some brilliant people in other departments like art or history. Also, she mentioned that Roman language are so small, and we will want more interesting to include more people. That's all.
Fantastic. There you are. Thank you very much, dear Angel. Santiago, please, are going to continue, right? So please start delivering your response now.
To begin with the reading passage, university announced an opportunity to study 2 semesters in Rome by the scholarship modality. All the students who want to participate in this concourse have to write an essay of the culture Rome. By the other hand, some students manifest that they are not sure about this competence because they think that this is not fair. The arguments of these students are that the Department of Romance Language is a little department, and they have a lot of friends that will be eligible for this competition. So they think that they will not be able, or they will not be eligible for this competence.
All right, there you are. Thank you very much, dear Santiago. And let us finalize this round with Andrea, okay? So please, dear Andrea, make the honors and start responding to the question now.
Okay, to begin with, in the reading passage, an announcement is made. A scholarship in Rome is available for students in the Romance language department, but the students from other departments would not be able to apply for this scholarship. On the other hand, there is 2 students who are discussing about this, and one of them states that it's a bad thing to limit to a one single department. She stated that it is not correct, just benefit a few students only from one department. And even if she is one of the people who is able to apply, it doesn't mean she wants her friends to be excluded. In conclusion, her opinion is that the opportunity to apply for the scholarship should be for all the students from related departments as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Andrea. Okay. Well, one more time then I have to say for all of you, fantastic, right? I am very much content with your performance on this task. I'm very much excited because of your level, and I cannot wait to see what you're going to do later in the other tasks and when we continue with these courses, okay? Andrea, magnificent, very well. Jasmine as well, perfect. Mateo as well, very, very good. Fantastic, very good. Anyways, I was about to say, maybe you could include a little bit more, but well, 18 seconds anyways seem to be fine. If you have mentioned everything, I think you did it. I think it's fine. It's just your ability to summarize things. Fantastic. Alexander as well. Here for Alexander and for Kevin have a super, super little recommendation. When you say in the other hand, it's actually on the other hand, right? The expression is on the other hand, right? But with regard to the rest, fantastic, right? Alexander and Kevin, wonderful, okay? Just on the other hand, and that is all right? Angel as well, perfect, very good. Here, maybe a little word mentioned, right? Mentioned, not mentioned, but mentioned. But the rest, fantastic, okay? Wonderful structure, wonderful summary, fantastic grammar, very good. Santiago as well. So here, for example, the word competition instead of competence, because the word competence refers to competence in the sense of your capacities, right? If you're competent to do something, nonetheless, competition refers to the tournament or to something that people compete for, right? But that little detail with regard to the rest, fantastic. Okay, very good summary, fantastic pronunciation, very good. Okay, very good, Santiago, and Andrea as well. Magnificent, very good, Andrea. Don't have any observation. In this case, you included a conclusion. It's fine. As I say, it's up to you. It is completely legal and fine to do it, right? Very good, dear Andrea. Okay, so as you can see, dear students, we have practice for this. Don't worry, because I know that as I can see the level you have, tomorrow I'm gonna be explaining you super quickly what the third task is all about. We're going to practice for it, and as we're gonna have, I know, some remaining time, we're gonna practice one more time for this one, and we have the entire Friday for doing so. So we have a very good time, I think. Right, so we're gonna stop the class here. I'm gonna stop sharing this. Please don't go yet. I have to take your assistance. And as I told you, okay, at the end of every class, I'm gonna take a poll. For those of you who were not present before, okay, I'm gonna take a poll, and well, please help me with the responses you give. It's a poll about the class, basically. All right, so you help me a lot by responding it, and please look at your screen and help me with that, okay? As I take your assistance, and please listen to your names. All right, so you say present, and you're gonna receive your certificate at the end of these courses. All right, by being here. Where are we? Okay, just listen to your names, dear students. All right, here you are. So see here, present. Where are we? All right, here we are. Okay, so where are we? Very good. Okay, and before also, there's one more poll. I'm gonna end this one. Help me with another poll every single Wednesday. Just on Wednesdays, we're gonna fill 2 polls, right? I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. It's just that the company requires me to do so. Please help me with a second poll. Look at your screen; it's very short, but this is only gonna happen on Wednesdays, right? Then the rest of the days we're just gonna have 1 poll, right? But please help me with this one. And now I see here Jasmine Azucena.
Present.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. What about Reyes Andre?
Here I am, present.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrea. Andrea Mercedes.
Here.
Thank you very much, Andrea. What about Alexander David?
Present.
Thank you very much, Alexander. What about Intriago Angel?
Present.
Thank you very much, Angel. What about Antesana Mateo?
Present.
Thank you very much, Mateo. What about Sergio Santiago?
Present.
Thank you very much, Santiago. What about Sara? Sara Neda? She was here, right? I think she got out. Well, I'm gonna put present anyways. Sarah is present, and finally, Kevin. Kevin, I see this.
Here, Professor.
Thank you very much, dear Kevin. Fantastic. And well, full house today. Fantastic. I'm very happy. So, yeah, there's a question. Jasmine, please help me with your question.
Yeah, it's not related to the course content. It's just more about the calls that we could schedule. Yesterday, I registered myself through Gmail, and yeah, I got access to that screen to schedule a phone call. But then when I click on the link that says schedule call here, something like that, in the part below, it says that this is content only for subscribers or something like that. So I don't know. I just only register myself and then go to that page and then see that. I don't know if I could share my screen to show you or send you a screenshot, but I don't know why I don't have access.
Yeah, don't worry. I mean, it's actually super common that it happens that. And I'm sending right now to the WhatsApp group the name of our academic coordinator. And she's the person that if you talk to her, okay, if you send her a message, and very good if you also, let's say, append to that message a picture of your problem on your computer, she's going to solve it super quick, okay? So please send her a message. I'm sending her contact right now. It's called Ruth. You probably have talked to her before. So as I said, talk to her, and she's going to be capable of solving that problem very quickly. All right, it's super common. Don't worry, it's something related to the website, something like that. All right. Oh, my pleasure. Any other questions, dear students, or any other thing that you could comment? Well, no questions then. So I see you tomorrow. Thank you very much and have a wonderful night. All right.
Good night. Thank you for the class.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Andre.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for everyone.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Bye-bye.